Oh, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. If you're absolutely in love with the New York Knicks like I am, I recommend clicking that red subscribe button down below and lighting up that post notification bell so you do not miss any future content on this channel. And as a New York Knicks fan, for the first time in a while, I'm so happy I'm not watching New York Knicks basketball in the next few days because it's All-Star Weekend and the New York Knicks needed a break. I love this team, but with the injuries, the fatigue setting in, these guys have no legs whatsoever. Just the amount of important players this Knicks team is missing, it's just absolutely insane. And then you have the Rockets game that occurred, just all drama at this point. I don't even want to talk about that anymore. It's just banned from this channel from talking about it. I'm kidding, but you can comment down below your thoughts if you want. But I'm definitely not going to make it the main topic of this video. So it is All-Star break. It is All-Star weekend. And the New York Knicks are 33-22. We're 10 games above 500. We're the fourth seed. And if I told you that at the beginning of the season that we'll be 33-22 at All-Star break, you'll probably be like, that's great. That is awesome. And yeah, it's an improvement from last year. The season's not done, but we were obviously the fifth seed last year. The Cleveland Cavaliers were the fourth seed. We went on to beat them in 5 games in the first round. And as of right now, if we were going to play in a playoff series, obviously the first game would be at home, and we would be taking on the Philadelphia 76ers that aren't that far behind us, and they're killed with injuries as well. No Tobias Harris, no Joel Embiid. They're really banged up. DeAnthony Melton continues to be out games. Robert Covington, they just have so many injuries. It's nuts right now. So we're 33-22, but the frustrating thing is getting killed with these injuries because the Bucks are wildly inconsistent on both ends of the floor. They look like a championship team, and then they look like a team that can lose in the first round. What are we, 1 game back from the Bucks? 1.5 games back from the Bucks? We aren't that far back from Milwaukee. This is a team that I just saw beat Denver last night or the other night in a blowout, but then lose to the Memphis Grizzlies last night. All respect to G.G. Jackson, all respect to Zaire Williams, all respect to those guys on that Grizzlies team. They're a young squad even when healthy, but if you're the Bucks, you can't be losing to that Grizzlies team. You just can't. And then a couple weeks ago, they lose to the Portland Trailblazers as well. I know it's the beginning of Doc Rivers' career with the Bucks, but in my opinion, that's unacceptable for the amount of talent that's on that team. And it was a huge mistake, in my opinion, trading Drew Holiday. You got some offense back, but defense is still very important in this league. And it's not Drew Holiday's fault. I understand Drew Holiday is one of the best on-ball defenders, but you can't just be sticking him on ball on Jimmy Butler every possession. Eventually, you have to double team. You can also put that on Budenholzer. And I've never seen a coach just get job after job from a resume from 2008 when he just had multiple Hall of Famers. You should win more than one championship with that squad. If we're being completely real, opportunity with the Clippers, opportunity with the Philadelphia 76ers, and now an opportunity with the Milwaukee Bucks. And we'll see how it works out. But I wanted to give you guys like my thoughts or what I'm looking forward to seeing from this team when we are healthy after All-Star break. And am I expecting Randall to be back first game, like against Philly after All-Star break? Probably not. Same thing with OG, because it said Randall's going to be evaluated in a few weeks or 3 weeks. And yeah, reevaluated or at least a few weeks. So they still need to be cleared by doctors. And just telling you guys these injuries, it's just nuts. So we have pretty much like all our centers hurt. There was a point even Jericho Sims was hurt, but Mitchell Robinson hurt at the beginning of the season. Obviously, he's actively not playing. Isaiah Hartenstein hasn't played the last couple games due to an Achilles injury, aggravating it. So there's our centers right now. At one point, Sims was out, but then he was back. He was out due to an illness. You have no Julius Randle out there on the floor. Obviously, hurt his shoulder. No OG Anunoby. Dante, even like OG Anunoby, when it came to his elbow injury, he actually ended up getting surgery, and he had around the same timeline as Randall, so maybe he'll be back a week later than Julius Randle. Dante DiVincenzo hamstring, I think that's the least serious one, and we were just kind of more being careful with him there. Jalen Brunson even missed some games, and then he came back. Just the injuries have just been nuts, just insane. That it's like maybe I'm missing a guy. Josh Hart probably was questionable 1 game, then he ended up playing or missed 1 game. It's just insane the amount of injuries we've had. So we could literally be the 3rd seed right now, if it wasn't for these injuries. We were on this 9-game winning streak, and you can only win so many more games after that when you lose Randall, when you lose OG, because yes, these guys are ballers, the rest of the guys on this team, but when you're consistently playing 35 to 40 minutes, it's just going to be tough. It's going to be tough, especially with an inconsistent bench and lack of consistent facilitating out there on the floor. So obviously, the main thing we're looking for is health, because but I'm going to put that into context. I know a lot of people think, oh, when OG's back and Randall's back, like, oh, we're good. Like, we're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think this team has the ability to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's where I want to see them go, or at the least, even though it'd be heartbreaking, losing 7 in the second round, but you want to see this team go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Do I think we could beat Boston? No. But maybe we would have the ability to make it competitive. But with the pieces of Derek White and Drew Holiday on Brunson, that's going to be very tough. But it also comes down to, do we even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals? We still need to see Randall step up in the playoffs. How's Dante going to look in the playoffs? He hasn't really had a year that he's popped off, but obviously he's a different role as well. But when it comes to a chemistry standpoint, we need these guys to get healthy, especially a brand new acquisition of Bogdanovic, even though I don't think there will probably be a lineup that Bogdanovic and Randall are out there on the floor. And I know Burks has played with Randall before, but both those guys are definitely looking to score first. Randall has shown the ability that he can pass the ball, but they're both score first guards. And from a chemistry standpoint, Burks and Randall, those play styles of isolation basketball definitely need to mesh together. So I just wanted to make that quick point. And when we're fully healthy, I still want to see everyone getting involved, because you notice Randall went down, and I'm not saying Randall was the issue and that's why Dante went off, but obviously when Randall went down, Dante had a bigger role. He became that number 2 option, scoring the rock, and he was just ridiculous over a stretch when Randall went down, averaging like 27 to 28 points per game, shooting like 15 threes a game, 40% from threes. Finishing was really solid. Just his stats were unbelievable. So when Randall comes back, and even OG, I feel like the shot distribution needs to be there. We need to have those games. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect every night. Brunson may take like 10 shots down the stretch because he's our freaking killer down the stretch, but you also want to see others get involved, such as Dante, OG, Randall, and maybe Burks off the bench or Bogdanovic. But the shot distribution is so important. You don't want to, especially in a playoff series or an important game, that it's like Randall's taking 20 shots, Brunson's taking 20 shots, OG has 10, but then Dante is like 7 shots. That you can't have that. You need Dante to have consistent confidence throughout the game, and he's a confident player, but it's hard as a shooter. Obviously, it's your responsibility to always be ready as a shooter, but you can't have him taking 3 or 4 shots. His floor spacing is going to be so important in big-time games, because Brunson could shoot the 3, but we know he's way more of a mid-range guy, even though his volume's up from 3. Randall, inconsistent three-point shooter, hovering around 30% from 3. You know, we don't have a floor spacer at the big position, so it is so important for Dante to get 3s up and for OG to get 3s up. And it brings way more versatility to the offense if we continue to get those guys involved, because Dante could occasionally take a mid-range, but he's not looking to always go to that mid-range. He's more of a 3 guy, come off screens, and we know he's a high-arcing shot. We know OG, he's more of a 3 and somewhat mid-range guy. He tries to work downhill, but he's kind of inconsistent with his handle. But he did show before he got hurt that he has the ability to post up and get to that mid-range, something we've seen that he's been working on. So if we have the ability to have OG that could shoot the 3 and score from mid-range a little bit, Dante that could shoot the 3 in the playoffs, Randall, who's going to take 3s when he's open. We'll see what his shot diet is in the playoffs this time, but he's been working downhill more this year. He's a mid-range guy. And then you have Brunson, that's a 3-level scorer, brings so much versatility to the offense. So I want to see Brunson look to get everyone involved, and just Randall as well. It's not just a Brunson thing. I know Brunson's the point guard, but Randall has definitely trips. He brings up the ball. And just staying on the facilitating topic, I want Brunson to have less pressure on him. I want him to not always press. And I know he's a score-first guard, and he's our engine. Like we live and die by Jalen Brunson. But with brand new acquisitions of Alec Burks and Bogdanovic, and I understand Burks can kind of be a streaky shooter, even though he's shooting it consistently well in Detroit. Some of his shots really come off of isolation. But Bogdanovic, when you have a shooter like Bogdanovic, when you have Dante, he's done a good job getting Dante involved. I'm not saying he hasn't. But it's very important playoff time, high-pressure situations that just make the easy read. You don't always have to isolate and get your bucket. Trust Bogdanovic. You know, he's averaged 18 points per game. His last time in 2021 in Utah, or 2020, averaged 18 points per game. His last couple years in the playoffs with Utah. Obviously ended up going to Detroit, so he's someone that could step up in high-pressure situations. When it comes to a rust standpoint, yes, there was some rust when he came over, chemistry, but I want to see some pick and pops, get some easy actions going for Bogdanovic, because Brunson is such a threat working downhill. It's like, oh, shit. Like, they think I'm working downhill, and they know I'm more of a score-first guard. They don't think I'm this Trae Young, Halliburton level. Well, I could just make this basic read and kick it out to Bogdanovic, top of the key, and knock down the 3. So I want less on Brunson's plate, but I also want him to have that mindset. I don't always have to drop 30 to let me get my shooters involved as well. And so we just talked about chemistry. We talked about the distributing of the basketball. So the bench is the most fascinating in my opinion. How are Tom Thibodeau's rotations going to be? Because when you look at it, Mitchell Robinson, is he going to be back playoff time? That's the big time question. And obviously the rotation is going to be a lot different if he's back playoff time or not. Because if not, Isaiah Hartenstein's obviously going to be the starting center. But Hartenstein's even he hasn't fought with Mitchell Robinson or anything. He just wants to win. He said he'll be the backup 5 when Mitch comes back. That's his guy. So you have Hartenstein potentially off the bench. You have Alec Burks. You have Bogdanovic. I think Sims' minutes are going to go away. Sadly, I think McBride's minutes are going to go down, even though I think we need him defensively. You have Josh Hart out there on the floor. You have Precious Achiuwa. Like, what are you going to do? Even though I think there's certain moments that I feel like we need to bring McBride out for his defense, because even though we traded for Burks and Bogdanovic that could score the rock, you traded away a way better defender than those two. Grimes is only averaging 5 points per game in the playoffs. He is younger. He can get better offensively, but you won't be missing his offense, but you will be missing his defense when it comes to being an on-ball defender and his grit there. So who's that main facilitator is the main question. You brought in Alec Burks to be the backup point guard, but if we're being completely real, I don't care about chemistry when it comes to the amount of games he's played here. He's played with the Knicks before. We've seen his game in Utah, in Philly throughout his career. He's not a pass-first point guard, or he's not. I wouldn't even consider him a good facilitator. He's a go-to isolation scorer. We need more passing in the second unit, no doubt about it. Bogdanovic isn't that guy. So you're lacking defense and passing between those two, but you add shooting, and there's a lack of rebounding. Josh Hart should be the main facilitator. It should be a combination of Hartenstein and Josh Hart because they read the floor better than Bogdanovic out there. They read the floor better than Burks out there on the basketball floor. Precious Achiuwa should continue to play. His rebounding, his defense, when he's playing his natural position, is unbelievable. The offensive rebounds, he's been playing like an absolute beast, and I feel he went from a kind of like, oh, we'll take a flyer on this dude to he looks really freaking good for the New York Knicks, and he's going to look even better up against second units. But Josh Hart knows how to rebound the basketball and push the pace. Does he have a consistent handle? No. Do I want him always bringing the ball up the floor? No, because there's definitely moments that he jumps on his passes, but no doubt about it, when it comes to creating offense for that second unit, or in general when he's out there on the floor and when he has the opportunity to pass and recognize guys cutting and kicking it outside the perimeter, he's shown that he can distribute the basketball. We talk about his defense, his ability to finish strong in transition, the rebounding, offensive rebounding, but he's a solid passer of the ball. We saw when Brunson wasn't out there, would he have 12 assists versus the Dallas Mavericks? And Burks is more of an isolation-heavy player. So I want someone of Josh Hart, Hartenstein. He definitely is the best at passing to guys when they're cutting back door or just cutting to the basket in general. But I want to see actions of them getting others involved, and I want Burks off the ball more than him being on the ball. Because there's going to be frustrating moments. It's like, all right, Bogdanovic is a real natural shooter out there. We need to get Bogdanovic the basketball. And we know Josh Hart, throughout his career, he's never been a consistent three-point shooter. He's had stretches, but he hasn't been consistent. So let's bring out what he's really solid at. He's a very solid passer. Don't make him a liability offensively. Don't put him in the position that he's off the ball in that second unit because you don't want him closing games. You don't. Especially because you don't want him standing at the three-point line when Brunson's doubled. But from a defensive standpoint, Bogdanovic and Burks definitely going to struggle. Precious adds some versatility there for sure through the OG Anunoby trade. But I want Josh Hart to be that facilitator. But I'm not sure what the rotation is going to be. It's going to be very, very fascinating because Hart and Precious are very solid defenders, but Burks and Bogdanovic aren't. And is Bogdanovic going to be played off the floor in the playoffs because he's about to be, 35, 36 years old in April. We know he could shoot the ball his last couple of years in the playoffs. He averaged 18 points per game with Utah, and I do believe he's going to get into a rhythm. But is Hart going to be that guy that can get guys in rhythm so they can knock down their shots outside on the perimeter? I think that's going to be key, really figuring out that facilitator. But Tibbs is in love with Burks as being a point guard for this team or a backup point guard. And the issue I have with Burks, he could score, but not very efficiently. Not very efficiently, but I know he helped us win Game 2 with Derrick Rose versus the Hawks in the playoffs. Let me know down below your thoughts. Peace out, y'all.